Hold on, wait, we got to play our intro. What's up, everybody? We are professional YouTubers, streamers, whatever. What's up, guys? Welcome to the Infinity Flux Letter to Page. My name is Matt.
I'm Andy.
And this is our live show where we do a little bit more casual chatting about comics and pop culture and things like that. Now, the reason it's a little bit scatterbrained today is because we are trying something new. We are streaming to, so Andy says hi. That's hi. You right there. You just said that. The name changes, says hola, what's up, how's it going? So we told you on one of our other videos a couple weeks ago that we have some changes coming to some of our videos, and this is one of them. So right now we are streaming to YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok all at the same time, and that's new for us. It's a little
creepy. If I look kind of right here, I see myself multiple times.
Right.
It's a little odd.
Yeah, so thank you guys for joining us on whatever platform you're watching us on. What's up, Lewis? What's up, Matt and Andy? Excited to go pick up Ultimate Spider-Man today. Yeah. Yes, Ultimate Spider-Man is so good. So yeah, thank you for bearing with us while we tried this. We were starting to get better at this whole live streaming thing, and then we tried this, and now
we can't have that.
Yeah, we're getting too good at this. We've got to do worse, actually. So yeah, we have Instagram over here. Apparently, Instagram comments we'll have to look at over here. So Instagram folks, we have you on the right. TikTok folks, we have you up there. What's up, Key? How you doing on TikTok? YouTube guys, Larry. Yeah, Larry says this is the media empire, that is for sure. And then PH Bricks, Andrew, you excited about signing your new work coming out?
I am very excited. Yeah, should be next week. I don't even have a copy of it yet. So I haven't seen it colored or anything.
Wait, which book is it?
It's the High Republic Annual.
Oh.
Yeah. I haven't seen like anything about it since I sent it off. So I'm very excited to see how it came out.
Yeah. Yeah, that's gonna be so it's out next week?
Yeah.
Are you doing a signing here?
I'll be signing. I don't know if it's going to be like a traditional, but I'll be here to sign.
So just so if anybody's here in the store, grab Andy, like when he's on his way to the bathroom or something, and just hey, by the way, can you sign this before? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll say, come on with me. I'll
come on in.
I'll sign on the back of the toilet.
One of the bathroom over here, one of them is big enough for two. So yeah, you could definitely fit that in.
Signing in there.
Man, I got to pick up my books. However, I'm looking forward to Hellsing Deluxe from Dark Horse and Vinland Saga. I haven't watched Hellsing in like 20-something years.
Those the big really nice hardcovers sell really well, and I think that's a super cool way of checking those out.
Yeah,
there's a few series they've been doing in the big kind of almost like leather bound looking hardcovers.
Well, it's like the Berserk ones.
Yeah,
I got the first volume of the Berserk one, and it looks really cool.
I want to watch Vinland Saga. I haven't checked it out yet, but I want to.
Yeah, I've heard good things about the anime. So I don't read a whole lot of manga, but I do watch some anime, especially with my son. So yeah, that's always a good time. Sorry, I'm just getting used to like looking at everywhere. Yeah. Okay. So
don't get distracted.
Yeah. We don't have one single topic for today, but Lewis says my shift ends in 30 minutes. I'm a clock out and speed to my LCS. Yes, hurry up and get there before it closes. Ultimate Spider-Man number 13 comes out today. It's so darn good.
Yeah.
My favorite issue of the series so far. Big things are established, are set up in that book. And we just talked about issue number 14 being on final order cutoff this coming weekend. That was on our comics to pre-order in a flash video that we just posted. Oh, this is a good question. Artistic influences.
Oh, Ryan Otley is
your favorite.
Is my favorite. Yeah. I also love Ryan Stegman. They're both inspired by like Art Adams. So yeah, definitely like Art Adams. But then I love of course, like Ivan Rice, Adam Hughes. I take in a lot and I put out a excrement version of all the work.
Well, it's funny because, Rob Liefeld on his podcast talks a lot about that, how, you can almost follow an art style down through the generations, but everybody and he mentions Art Adams a lot, but everybody takes their takes an inspiration, but then twists it. Puts a not twist it, but puts a little spin on it.
It is interesting. There's two. I feel like there's kind of two schools that people came out of. There might be more, but there's the people who followed Jack Kirby, and then the younger artists now are Art Adams. So if you see a more animated influence, it tends to be Art Adams. If you see a more traditional comic style, even Jim Lee and Ivan Rice and some of those are all kind of descendants of Jack Kirby.
Yeah.
But then, refined and they became their own. But if you go back and look at their earliest stuff, you can see where they came from.
Yeah.
That's always really cool to see.
And it is cool. Like you really can see certain styles you can almost trace it all the way back through the decades, which I think is really cool. And you just like Ryans.
I do
all the Ryans.
Yeah, I could probably think of a few others.
There's Ryan Benjamin.
Yeah. Ryan Choi.
Yeah. So all the Ryans. If your name Ryan and you're an artist, Andy is going to. Yeah. What story arc are you looking forward to the most? What do you mean, like in what? Like anything?
I mean, I'm interested in this One World Under Doom.
Yeah.
That's
Ryan
cool.
Ryan Reynolds, right?
Ryan Reynolds, yeah.
So same. Marvel's events have been pretty hit or miss, but One World Under Doom, I think looks really cool because I am a Doctor Doom fan.
Yeah. Even reading that Doctor Doom and a Rocket Raccoon book,
I
was just like, I just like this. I like hanging out with Doom and hearing his mannerisms and how he talks and everything. If a good writer does that, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and especially with the issue of Fantastic Four that came out today, that sort of leads into One World Under Doom. Doom is in it, and you get to see like Doom like kind of outsmarts Reed Richards a little bit, and he's ready to take over the world, and so you get to see that. So I'm excited to see, like what, and I hope it's kind of more like how Dark Reign was. I mean, I know we're having our One World Under Doom series, but I do kind of hope that it's
a status quo.
It's more of a status quo. Like it's just something looming over the Marvel universe. And then maybe they reference it here and there, but I don't want everything to come to a screeching halt so that they can tell this story. I just want it to be like a looming thing.
They also asked about Absolute down there.
I
was listening to Scott Snyder talk about Absolute Batman. And so he described it as the first kind of introductory story arc is all from Alfred's point of view. The second one is going to be from Bruce's.
Okay.
And I'm kind of interested to see that because, Alfred's been narrating as a very kind of outsider coming to Gotham. I want to see Bruce kind of describing what's going on in that take. I was listening to a really good thing on his Best Jacket, his thing.
Substack.
Where he was talking about like, and then there's a big grand story arc that's going to be so long and everything.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to now, like what's Wonder Woman after this Tetracide story? Because that's been 100% of that story has been that.
And that story arc only has one more issue.
Yeah.
With the next one, and then who knows what after that. But I'll be excited.
It's funny. I feel like Superman is just getting into its storyline.
Yeah.
Wonder Woman's just exiting its storyline, and Batman is kind of wrapping it up. But it feels like a little bit more nebulous story.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's Black Mask, but there hasn't been like kind of a beat for beat, objective.
Right.
It's just, how Batman's dealing with this.
Yeah. Lewis wants to know whose art did you like the most for today's releases? Dan Moore excluded.
There you go.
Dan Moore excluded probably Ivan Rice on Hyde Street.
Ivan Rice on Hyde Street was incredible.
Or Marco Cicchetto on Ultimate Spider-Man.
Yeah, there's some really pretty stuff in there.
I don't have my books with me, but I don't remember what else came out. I mean, you got Michael Janin on Detective Comics.
You got Ryan Sook on Black Canary.
Mm-hmm. I'd have to go Ivan Rice though. If you're not going to let me have Dan Mora, I'd have to go Ivan Rice just because his stuff is so good. I miss his Green Lantern work, but I'm glad that we are, we're getting like something kind of different from him. Is really cool.
Yeah. I would agree. Ivan Rice is one of my favorite artists. So anytime an issue that he draws comes out, I think it looks like S tier level. Like, oh, this is not average art. This is incredible.
Yeah. So Walt has a question that's going to lead us into one of the things we're going to talk about today. Do either of you have writers that you follow reading everything from Alan Moore and Walt really digs Ron V. Zdarsky and Matt Kent. So one of our we actually got a question from Larry Smith on one of our videos from a few days ago that said, "Who do you think are the best male and female comic writers?" In my opinion, it's Hickman and Kelly Thompson. So I'll read anything that Mark Waid writes. I think for me, 1, 2, and we're talking current writers, you know, because obviously you could go back to like Roy Thomas and Steve Englehart and some of those guys, but like current day, who's writing comics right now? I would put a 1, 2 or right at the Mark Waid and Joshua Williamson.
Yeah,
I'll read anything that either one of those guys write. But then, as far as female writers, Kelly Thompson was going to be my thing as well. I loved her run of Captain Marvel, her Black Widow. I really loved her West Coast Avengers run.
I really like that Black Widow.
Yeah.
I mean, an easy one to say is Robert Kirkman, but I do feel like all of his stuff, none of it's bad, and I'll try out any of it.
Yeah.
Because it's always going to be fun. Jeff Johns. I will always check out a Jeff Johns thing because I don't know, I just click with his storytelling. And I love Joshua Williamson.
Yeah.
You know, even like back on his really indie stuff, I read all of that. I really like, and I don't want to say I've read like everything Gail Simone's done, but her Secret Six is like one of my favorite series of all time. And I feel like that was just hitting on all cylinders. So, you know, if Gail Simone writes something, I'll definitely check it out.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's anyone that I'm just like, I will follow you into oblivion with your writing.
I think for me, probably Joshua Williamson. Maybe I'll read if it says Joshua Williamson, I'll definitely check it out. Even maybe more than Mark Waid, because you know sometimes some of the stuff he's done in the past hasn't really interested me as much.
Yeah.
But like Joshua Williamson, there's nothing that he has written that I haven't actively wanted to read.
Yeah, and now Flash and Green Lantern.
Jeremy Adams.
Jeremy Adams. I feel like Jeremy Adams is another one. Like, if he announces something, I'll be like, okay, I'll check that out.
Yeah. So there's a lot more. There's Tom Taylor and James Tynion, and I guess it's and James says Stephanie Phillips too, right? I've been enjoying a lot of her stuff too. So Becky Cloonan, yeah. So
I love. Okay, if Becky Cloonan is doing like her own thing, if she's doing like a gothic thing that she's drawing and writing, I absolutely love it.
Yeah. So that's a hard question to answer because there are so many. Like I've said before, like I feel like we're in not the golden age, but a golden age of comics right now with all the good stuff that's coming out. And there's so many good creative teams, you know, writers and artists and colorists and inkers and all that kind of stuff. So we are very lucky to have this massive like smorgasbord of talent on all these books. I was going to check and see. Yeah. So Tim says Hickman better than Tynion. I'm not sure.
They're very, very different writers.
Yeah.
Hickman, giant, grandiose, universe shaking, very like a lot of pieces working together. It's like a big machine.
Yeah.
Tynion is a much more personal, focused on either a single character or a group of characters. It's more about emotion and stuff, as Hickman is more about like the nuts and bolts of something and how it works. So I wouldn't put him in the same category. I think Hickman maybe is closer to like a Grant Morrison, where it's all about like this giant, you know, how does this one piece impact 1,000 pieces?
Yeah.
And then Tynion is more like a Scott Snyder or something, where it's like, let's look at these emotional beats of a character.
And then Scott Snyder, forgot to mention him too, right? So we just have so many good, talented people working in comics right now, and there's more that come out all the time, which is really cool.
I think that's why it's so weird that Hickman is on Ultimate Spider-Man, because it's not, you know, the things that I'm used to Hickman doing are Fantastic Four, which his Fantastic Four was huge.
Yeah.
It was, you know, he introduced like all the Council of Reeds and all this kind of thing, or his Avengers that was huge, or his X-Men that was huge. So that he's doing Ultimate Spider-Man, which is basically focused on kind of 2-3 characters.
Yeah,
is a cool change for him.
Yeah, Lewis says across Marvel and DC, everything feels like peak comic book stories. Everything's so good except for Amazing Spider-Man. It's on its last legs. We'll see what happens in April with Joe Kelly taking over and a new #1, Rick Remender. See what I'm saying? Like, it's hard to even think of all of everybody who's out there because there are so many. So yeah, great. I don't know if we answered your question. I feel like we just answered with everybody, but it's kind of true. Like, I'll read anything Scott Snyder writes. Joshua, Robert Kirk. Somebody mentioned Robert Kirkman. Walt says Ann Nesenti. Had a great run on Daredevil back in the. That's what I think of when I think of Ann Nesenti.
There's so many people too that like Ann Nesenti or Brubaker that you don't see their names come up as often anymore, but it's because they've kind of reached that tier where they do stuff they want to do. But also back to artists. Carlos Gomez, since it made me think when someone said Amazing Spider-Man, and then I thought of Venom, and then Carlos Gomez, also love him. Jorge Jimenez.
Yep.
There's
I'm
so
trying
many.
to think of like shoot. I know it when I see it, right? Like Tom Riley over doing the G.I. Joe stuff is really good. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of good. Remember 3 years ago or so, everybody thought comics were
People think comics are over every week.
Yeah.
It's because the people who say that either don't read comics or they listen to too many talking heads.
Comics have been dying since the 50s.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay.
Comics have been dying since the parents threw EC Comics and fires and were getting war bonds. Yeah,
it's funny. So to anybody watching who maybe you come across a tweet or a YouTube video of somebody saying the comic industry is in trouble and it's dead, take it from us here at a retailer. That's not true. It's not like it was in the 90s, but nothing is. CD sales aren't what they were in the 90s. TV ratings for a half-hour sitcom are not what they were in the 90s. Like, you can't compare. It's an unfair comparison. But this is something I get hot when I talk about this. I could talk about this stuff all day. But no, comics are doing fine. There is so much good stuff. And especially like in our position, we are responsible for knowing what's coming and when and how much stuff is coming. And like, there's so much stuff that comes out every week. And there's so much stuff to order every single week. Yeah. There's no like, if comics are dead, they sure are putting out a whole lot of comics for being.
There's a lot of corpses out there. Yeah.
Well, yeah, Diamond may disagree. And that's one distributor who lost a lot of its business though, right?
That has nothing to do with
comics, right?
That has everything to do with running a business. That's like when you see people, another comic book store is closing. It's because they might have not been run very well, or their market. They were maybe in a market that either had too many stores or just didn't have the right age ranges or whatever. Same with Diamond. There's business decisions that happen that cause that, not the industry.
Yeah, so it's a lot more nuanced than just nobody reads comics. There's a whole lot more that goes into running a shop and running a business than just nobody reads these comics. So it's when you hear stuff like that, it's like, hold on, if a comic shop closes, I need to know like what their business model is like and what area were they in, and did they get in over their heads with variant coverage? Like, there's so much to it.
It's usually because rent went up, or something like that, or they had a family emergency and they couldn't stay.
One of the big shops I want to say in Pennsylvania went under, I think in 2021, because COVID made everybody work at home, which had a ripple effect. So everybody working at home, which means they meant that they had less foot traffic. Coming into the store because everybody was at home, and all these things happen, all these things compile. So like I said, it's not, you can't just put it on one thing, whether it's a shop or whether it's Diamond. It's never just one single thing. It's a death by 1,000 cuts kind of thing. And so, but the industry by and large is doing just fine. Do you anticipate that Diamond will be causing shops any issues? It'll cause issues for shops that ordered a lot through Diamond. Like, because you could still order like Marvel comics through Diamond. Up until maybe a week ago, you could still order Image through Diamond, even though Lunar is the distributor for that and Penguin is the distributor for Marvel. So for those shops who still relied on Diamond for a lot of their product, it'll be a bit of a hiccup because they'll have to start working with Lunar and Penguin and trying to figure out how to order from 2 other distributors. But I don't.
We've been doing that for a very long time. We've been using Lunar and Penguin and Simon & Schuster. Like we've diversified where we get our stuff from. So the Diamond thing is more of an inconvenience for us. It's more of a speed bump.
Yeah.
But I'm not as worried about the stores as I am small publishers, who that was their only way of distributing, because there are a lot of publishers that may only release a comic every so often because they're just not that big of a thing, but they did have an outlet for that. So this is a great time to, like, if there's a small publisher you like that, I don't know, like Coffin Comics that does Lady Death, like
or Keen Spot or something like that.
Even Keen Spot is through Lunar now.
Are they really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
But if there's, look into whatever publisher you like or whatever books you like, especially if they're smaller, and see, like, hey, how can I, like, talk to my store about how to get these, or can I go directly to the creators or something like that and support those people, because that's the people who are suffering. Is now they're kind of scrambling, trying to figure out how are we gonna get our comics out? Right,
because as far as shops go, for almost everything, there's another distributor they can go to, right? So, and that leads into the name changes. I don't know what IDW, Image, Boom, Dynamite are going to do. So, IDW is through Penguin. The shops can get those through Penguin. Image is through Lunar. Boom is exclusive through Diamond for only a little bit longer. Penguin Random House bought them last year, so Boom is going to go over to Penguin Random House. So they're set. The only one is Dynamite, and I'm sure they'll just go to one of the other two.
So when people think of, like, the indie stuff, IDW, Image, they're not necessarily as indie as I'm talking about,
right?
Because we don't get IDW, Image, or Boom. Well, soon to be Boom from Diamond. There's other options. They're going to be fine. You have to maybe look at Distillery and see what they're going to do and what Dynamite's going to do. But also, we're talking about, Diamond filed for bankruptcy. They're restructuring and stuff. It doesn't mean that they're going anywhere. It may change what they look like. They may sell portions of it, but not ready to count them out or anything. Yeah,
and Mark says Mad Cave. So Mad Cave is through Lunar as well. So they're already somewhere else.
Yeah.
But this is a good point too. So James says my LCS was worried about Diamond collectibles and statues. And I don't know as much about that side of it though. Do you know anything about, like, because we don't get a lot of that kind of stuff here?
I know that. So there's Diamond, there's Diamond Select, which is kind of a separate entity. Diamond Select handles a lot of that kind of stuff, and then Diamond distributes it. But it's the same as Diamond had Alliance, and Alliance was their gaming arm or whatever. But I would say if Diamond is going to, they might look to sell those arms of their business or whatever. But I think Diamond Select actually is doing pretty well. So I'll say you'll probably hear something relatively soon about if you can't get them through there, where you can get them from.
Yeah, Tim says, what's up, Tim? I saw Vault was going to self-distribute and Lunar. So there was actually an email that came out about that. I don't know is that cool to talk about? Or?
Well, we order Vault through
Lunar.
Through Lunar. Yeah. And, they're readjusting and everything, but I don't think, for us, that's not going to change too much.
And then Walt says, was there a benefit, discounts or services using Lunar versus Penguin versus Diamond? So Penguin offers free shipping. So that's a big plus right there. Lunar, I don't know.
So a lot of it was because of we had to in the beginning, like DC went exclusive with Lunar. So that's why we had to do that.
Right.
But they all have they're all a little bit different. With discounts and that kind of stuff. We don't want to get into like the nitty gritty of like discounts and everything. But they all offer their own thing, and they're all pretty much similar to that. No, it kind of came down to places where we got we got our books on time from here, or Lunar is really easy to order from. It's a really great, like, on back end stuff. And so, there's the only advantages and disadvantages are, you can only get this company through here. You can only get this company through here, and you can only get this company through here. So you kind of just.
And you have to hop to 3 different websites to order all your stuff, but you get used to that, I'm sure.
I get it all done on Mondays pretty fast.
Yeah, but it's an interesting topic to talk about, and there's a lot of misinformation out there about this whole diamond thing, and a lot of bad actors are using it as a way to say, oh, this is the end of the comic book industry. It is so far in a way not the end of the comic book industry. The industry nearly did collapse in the 90s due to distribution, among other things. And if the industry survived that in the late 90s, that was way worse than what's going on right now. So everything's fine. Like I said, there will be some hiccups for some smaller shops, some smaller publishers, but the industry as a whole, it won't be much at all.
No.
Are you excited for Hush 2? Any theories on what the plot will be? We are excited, but I don't know what the plot's going to be.
I know some of what Hush 2 is about, but it sounds very cool.
Yeah,
I'm very excited about it. What I know about it is gonna be still full of surprises. Yeah. It's not just gonna be a rehash of the first Hush. I know. Yeah. But yeah, I Hush 2 is going to be awesome, and everyone should check it out.
We're going to stay hush on what we know about Hush.
Yeah.
So there was one other thing from Johnny B that said, I read Absolute Power, but none of the tie-ins. And that was the first and only event I've ever read where I felt lost because I didn't read the tie-ins. And I thought that was interesting because one of the great things about DC lately is how they have handled their events and the number of tie-ins, and how I feel like they found there's maybe several tie-ins, but like I feel like they found a sweet spot between not a lot of tie-ins and the ones that are there still have weight to them, still play a part in the overall event. So I thought Absolute Power, I didn't think the tie-ins were necessary. However, if you read Absolute Power number 3 and Batman all of a sudden shows up with this thing, and I don't even remember what it was at this point.
The Mother Box.
Yeah, the Mother Box. So Batman shows up with their Mother Box. You're like, hey, where the heck did that come from? Well, you can go read where he got that from, or if you don't care, you don't need to worry about it.
It doesn't stop the main narrative flow of the thing. And we talked about this. So if you compare, and we're not like hating on Marvel events. There's been fantastic Marvel events. I love like Siege, Civil War, some of those. You have like take a recent one. So you've got Absolute Power, which is DC's recent one, and Blood Hunt Marvel's. So Marvel definitely had more tie-ins than Absolute Power did by quite a bit.
Blood Hunt, I think, had roughly twice as many tie-ins as Absolute Power. Well, twice as many like books in the event total than Absolute Power did, I think. And
so we could look at it and say, like, yeah, you've got the main Blood Hunt books, and you could read the whatever 5 issues it was or whatever, and you did not have to read any of the extra books. Now, the problem that happens is a lot of the extra books like to promise that they are going to have a big impact on the main story.
Yeah.
We're talking about the Spider-Man story where it looked like they had a cure for vampirism, and Spider-Man and Morbius had to team up and all of that. Turns out they didn't.
Right.
And so it didn't affect the main storyline. Or, I really like the Dracula series. The art was phenomenal in that, but also it was cool to see what Dracula was doing and all this, but it didn't really affect the final outcome. So you kind of have to say it either has to be one or the other. It either the side books have some effect on the main story, or at least are referenced, or if a character changes the color of their glove, you would hope that is reflected in the main story if you see them. As opposed to all these, you're reading these books, you're paying for these books, and you realize they promised me that these are going to be important. You need to check these out. And you get to the end, you're like, those really didn't have any effect. So it's either one or the other.
Yeah.
I do think that Absolute Power did a good job at it, where there were things that you could see, but the main narrative was not disrupted by, oh, wait, you didn't come into a room and then they were like, haha, I caught you. And you're like, who's that guy? Yeah. Like, it was no, like...
Nothing like that.
Yeah, nothing that messed up the story.
Yeah, I mean, like, with Blood Hunt, we had tie-ins like the 3-issue Union Jack. And it's like, admittedly, I don't care what Union Jack is doing during this thing. I want to know, like, where the main stuff is. So, I guess it's just, I like the idea. I like that Marvel does, like, hey, if you really want to know what Hulk is doing during this event, we'll show you what it is. But I kind of like for my tie-ins to, not that you are required to read them, but I do like for them to feed into the main story somehow. If you can find that sort of perfect medium. And I feel like DC did do that with Absolute Power. They found that sweet spot of, these aren't crucial for you to read, but if you do read them, you'll know where Batman got the mother box from. And you'll know how Superman found the other heroes when he went with Zatanna down that road or whatever. So, and the sheer number too. So like James here says, surefire way to lose me is in readers to have 12 other books tie into the main book. I mean, the sheer number two, and when events are announced and they do show like, here's the checklist with like 60 books, I do worry that scares people off. And every time I see that, I try to assure readers, like, you don't have to read them. There's a lot, but they're not all required. Just read what you want. If you just want to read the main part, you usually can. That's fine. So don't get scared off by an event that has a ton of tie-ins. Just pick and choose whichever ones you want. Hey, I like Psylocke. I'm going to read that one shot from Blood Hunt, but don't worry about all the rest of the stuff. So it's almost like, don't get intimidated by it when a grocery store has 30 flavors of Doritos. Just pick which flavor you like and go eat those ones, and that's it. I always take it back to food. I always do food analogies with comics. I don't know why.
Everyone understands that.
Yeah.
My thing with it is I want the tie-ins. I do, want them hopefully to, reflect on the main story.
Yeah.
But say it's a book like Blood Hunt where it's like, oh, these vampires came from this dark dimension, everything. I do care what Dracula thinks about this.
Right.
I don't necessarily care what Union Jack has to say about this. Like I'm reading the Blackest Night omnibus, and I love Blackest Night. Like I have rose-colored glasses when it comes to that. But you have Blackest Night, and then it was a big Green Lantern story. So yeah, Green Lantern Corps were super important. It was cool to see like what Batman, like what was going on with Batman and everything. But there is and I love Jonah Hex, but there's a Jonah Hex one shot that takes place in the past. And it's like, what did Jonah Hex do about zombies? And it's like, that's not really relevant to what's going on. Yeah. I kind of like, instead of having maybe a lot of X-Men one shots, maybe have an anthology. It's like, here's a couple of X-Men stories, but we don't need a mini series. If it's a vampire book, talk about the dark characters. What are they doing? It's an X-Men book. Okay, X-Men. Maybe a nod to, are the Avengers paying attention to what's going on? My problem is like when it's, you have your thing and then it's like, what's Larry over there doing? It's like, I don't know. Is that important?
Yeah. I'm actually rereading the original Crisis on Infinite Earths right now, but I'm doing a deeper dive on it and reading all the tie-ins this time. I've never read those before. And on the DC Universe app, it has them all together. And most of the tie-ins are just like, man, it sure is weird that the sky is red and there sure is a lot of storms. Anyway, let's go fight whatever villain we've been fighting for the last 5 issues. And so they're not really super relevant, but it is cool to see them. But I do want to talk, Jeffrey said, this one right here, how important is it to read all the X titles during the X Manhunt upcoming series? So that's not really an event. That's more of just a crossover story. Kind of like what they did back in the 90s with Executioner's Song and the Phalanx Covenant, I think, and Fatal Attractions and that kind of stuff. So I would say that it probably is important to read all of those because it's not an event. It's just a 10-part crossover between all the books. So part 1 is going to be in X-Men whatever, part 2 in X-Force whatever, part 3 and whatever. So I don't know for sure. Like we'll know more when those books start to come out. But I do think for something like that, it probably is a little bit more important to read them all because it's just one single story going through 10 issues. It's just that
I feel like those are the more problematic ones. Yeah. Because you will have in those, say your story stars Cable and he's, here. when you get back around to the next Uncanny X-Men or whatever, whoever, your character is going to be in a wildly different place. So I those take way more of a leap of like, I guess stuff happened in between these.
Well, you know, and they did it in the 90s with like Spider-Man. You know, I mean, even in the Superman, the Triangle era in the 90s, like they put a second number on the cover so you would know what order to read all the books in, because the story just continued through all of them. When you had something like Maximum Carnage, it went through Amazing Spectacular, Web of, and Ejectoless Spider-Man. So this X-Man Hunt, from what I understand, is more like that, where it's just one story told through 6 different titles, and if you want the full story, you do have to go buy that single issue of that title. And hopefully they'll do as well as they did in the 90s, where it says to be continued in, and put the next title. Hopefully they do that,
and give you a little recap maybe at the beginning, at least not a big one, but like, hey, this happened in the previous part, so you know you can stay on track.
Yeah, so that one's not a big, that's not a huge event. It's just more of a crossover. And they've done that. I'm trying to think. They've done that recently with a couple other storylines too, where it was more of a crossover, but I can't remember what. Like the 4-part, when we first got Helverine, it went back and forth between 2 issues each of Ghost Rider and Wolverine, or the Raid on Grey Malkin storyline. It was just a 4-part story that went back and forth between X-Men and Uncanny X-Men. So stuff like that, you know.
Yeah, it would be interesting sometime to do a video and talk about, okay, what's the difference between an event, a crossover, and then like whatever the What If Galactus is like. Well, it's like a series of one-shots. You know, there's all these different things. I usually see an event as being line-wide to some extent. Yeah. At least what happens there is acknowledged throughout all published books that are in their main universe. And then you have a crossover, which tends to be in
its own little corner, kind of like what was it? What was the Batman one? Shadow War. Well, there was the Gotham War too, which was confined to the back corner of the DC universe.
And you had Nightfall, which is like,
well, that was pretty.
You can talk about the Clone Saga and Nightfall if you want to see. When a crossover gets almost to event with so many things, but those do cross over into multiple titles and everything.
Yeah, a crossover can be, it typically is. There's no hard and fast rules for any of this stuff, but typically crossovers are more confined to a specific section of a universe, like the Spider-Man books or the Batman books or whatever. But then, you have stuff like Secret Wars and Civil War, which is like, this affects the whole universe. Well, I guess the original Secret Wars didn't.
That's a very
that was a thing just made to sell toys, you know.
Yeah, there's some of those that are like very self-contained, like little almost like bubble events. Yeah, that you could take those out and it didn't disrupt anything going on, but they do involve very large amounts of things. They're almost like how a anime movie is like. I mean, you can just watch the series and avoid the movies, but they do add an extra little detour, a little side quest. Yeah. Then you have the weird stuff that they've done for years in annuals, where annuals will be a continuing story that just pops up every time there's one of those.
Frankencastle, that was fun. That was weird.
Frankencastle, that was a weird time in Marvel, where they were just throwing whatever they could.
Like, let's just try whatever, that was cool. But all right, so I guess we're at 7:00 right now. The store's about to close, so I guess we are going to call it a day here. But guys, thank you so much. This is the highest viewership we've ever had on this video, and thanks for putting up with us while we fiddled around being live on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. I think it worked pretty well. So our next show is going to be 2 weeks from today. Yeah. So whatever day that is, let me tell you, not the 29th, but whatever the next Friday, the 5th, February 5th. Leave us a comment or a question or something about what you would like for us to talk about. Normally we just need something to kind of get started, and then but this is these kind of back and forth, this is exactly what we wanted from this show. We'll start with a topic, but then let's just see where it goes, and let's talk about whatever you want to.
Yeah, it's good to have a starting point and stuff that people are interested in talking about or have questions about stuff, because whether you're a new
hello on Instagram, ATL. So that's our first Instagram comment. So thank you for being here. Sorry, I'm looking at you over here, but that's where we have it. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sure that people watching are new readers, long-time comic readers, or the curious. We're happy to talk to anybody, because even if you're never read a comic ever, but you're like, oh, I like the movies and stuff, you're still a comic fan.
Yeah.
And we love talking to everybody. So let us know what questions you have. No questions dumb, because we were all new to this at one point.
Yeah, just leave
some of us, it was just a little bit longer ago.
Right. Right. But yeah, just leave us a comment, on this YouTube video and or any of them, and we'll compile them together. We always go back and look, so we're not going to miss one. But yeah, I mean, we'll just put together and we'll just get together and talk about whatever you guys want to talk about, because it's really, really fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess
this video will end, and we'll probably continue to talk like this.
Right.
But thanks for joining us.
Yeah, this was super good. These are fun. These shows are always fun. Every comic stream is someone's first.
Exactly.
That's right. All right, guys. I'm gonna figure out how to end the stream on like 4 different platforms now. So
you get to watch Matt
you get to. Okay, so I'm gonna click this first. All right. So guys, thank you again so very much. Be sure to go check out our top 10 comics to pre-order in a flash video. We just posted that right before we started this. Friday, we have our comics from the future video where we talk about a bunch of the books that you can pre-order this weekend. And then next Monday, of course, will be our comic preview video where we talk about a lot of the books coming out next week. Because like we said earlier in the show, every week there are lots of big books that are coming out. So
I thought you were about to say there's big bugs.
There's big bugs.
No, yeah. We gotta squash them.
Yeah. All right, guys, we're out of here. Thank you so much for joining us. And until our next live, we'll see you on our next live show in 2 weeks, but we'll see us again on Friday, I guess. Yeah. But yeah, you guys have a great one, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.